Hello, everyone. Welcome to tapaScript Lab, yet another episode. And I know that you guys are enjoying it. I have already published five of them, and this is the sixth one. As I request you always, please subscribe to tapaScript if you find my content good and if it helps you, because this is going to give me a lot of motivation to create great content for you. And if you also want to connect with me on various other social media, then just scan the QR code. You will get everything about me to connect to me and talk. So today I have a very special guest. Is Victoria Low, and possibly is more than 3 to 4 years that I know her. I know her very well. And people who are into blogging or reading technical articles, they probably know her already. If not by her face, at least by her writing and sharing knowledge. So today I'm really happy and excited to talk to Victoria and get to know a lot of stuff that she is doing or she has done and what are upcoming plans. So without wasting much time, over to Victoria. Hey Victoria, how are you? How are you doing? How are you feeling today?
Thanks, Tapas, for inviting me. Sorry, I came in like an hour. Like I thought it was an hour later because my calendar I forgot to change the time zone. But yeah, thanks a lot for having me, and yeah, I'm really hoping that we can just catch up today.
I think one of the primary reasons for having this chat with you is I've been observing you very closely and your work. Maybe it's last 3 to 4 months where I lost the touch, being so busy in my life and doing a lot of stuff at and myself. But before that, whether starting with your blogging journey, the writing, you were working in PayPal and then started your own podcast. I am very excited to know like how you guys are doing that podcast, what motivated you and to do all this stuff. You are the person I've seen doing a lot of hackathons. You are a GitHub star, so there are a lot of things that caught my attention, and some of the things that I am aware like how it is happening probably, but it will be awesome story for many people to know and get really inspired by. So that's the main intention that I thought of catching up with you in this podcast. Why don't you get started with a bit of background of yourself? It's like, where do you belong, where are you from, who are you, how are you, all those kind of stuff.
Basically, all the 5W1H, right? Uh,
Yeah.
like back to English class. Okay, yeah. So So me, yeah, my name is Victoria. I'm a solutions engineer, and basically, I when someone asks me where am I from, I always kind of have a bit of a trouble answering that because I lived in this three different countries around the same duration, so around a few years, X amount of years for each country. So it's like I don't really know exactly where to say I'm from, but I'm basically born in Indonesia, and then I moved to Singapore, and then I moved to Canada, and then I'm back to Singapore. So, so it's kind of like I've lived an equal amount, and I feel the same identity and culture to almost every country that I lived in. So I feel like if someone asks me where I'm from, I have to answer this long answer question
Mhm.
answer. So I'm so sorry for the like a long answer, but yeah, that's basically where I'm from. And then yeah, I don't know, 1H. So how do I get here? I think Tapas knows best. Is I came online just one day publishing articles, and that's how we met, Tapas. And I think it's always been a journey, like just getting to know you. And I remember when I first just started, your name is everywhere, and I really look up to you as a role model, as an inspiration, and that kind of also helped me like continue to publish articles because I want to basically be kind of like Tapas, like as a role model. Like this is the blog that I kind of want to strive for. So yeah, and that's why it's an honor to be here today. But yeah, that's kind of like my long introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that you kind of started sharing your knowledge in terms of writing some time back. So yeah, I'm glad to know that somewhere I was part of your, inspiration bucket and somehow inspired you some way. But I think your writing and the way that you share the content, this is pretty amazing. I mean, the way that you structure, you put forward things. It is not only me. I think there are many folks who are very much fan of yours. And when you started doing that on a technical writing journey, you saw it very evidently that people were appreciating it. The community kind of lifted you, as such at that point of time. And it doesn't happen just like that if they are not getting that kind of value back, right? So what I wanted to know is like this sharing knowledge or the writing part, was it already in you and that somehow transformed in the technical part of it, or one fine day you just decided, no, this is time that I can actually go out and start writing and be part of technical community? How that transformation happened?
Good question. Yeah, I actually always like writing. Like I've always just document everything that I learn for myself, and whether if it's like just reading books or learning other skills like finance, history, philosophy, I always just kept digital notes of whatever I learned. So when the time I was pivoting, because I was actually a finance major, when I was pivoting to go into tech, I was thinking, hey, I should just, might as well just publish what I'm learning. So it slowly become this like knowledge database of like
Ah.
things that I'm learning. And I always like teaching to others also. So even back in university and school, if anyone asks me questions, I'm always happy to explain to them. I just find it rewarding to be able to share knowledge. So
Mm.
I thought I could do so digitally, and that's how I found actually Hashnote, because I was looking for a platform in order to write, like specifically for the tech community. At the time, I didn't even know there was a tech community. I was like really like out of that. But then I found Hashnote, and then I was like, this is a niche for the tech community. So I was like, I should try writing and see. And of course, at that time, I see top writer Tapas. So I'm like, yeah, I should learn something. should learn something from him. I read a lot of your articles, and then I was like, okay, now let me try doing it as well. So that's why I decided to go on the journey. Yeah.
What is your thought process? I mean, to let's say you have to take a session in front of 100 developers. Would you kind of advise them or suggest them to share knowledge in the similar kind of format that you did? I mean, would you encourage them to write or create blog and things like that? If yes, why? If no, why?
Okay, yeah. So I think Tapas, you might agree with me, since we're both always sharing knowledge. Is that I believe knowledge is power, right? So if anyone, like even 100 developers or even more than that, I believe it's always important to share knowledge. But I will not force them like the medium of writing, because I don't
Hmm.
think people have to use the medium of writing if they don't really like to write. So there's always many ways to share knowledge, whether if it's just through podcasts or through just writing it down, GitHub. Like there's many ways to do it. So I basically would encourage them to share their knowledge, or at least start documenting whatever they learn, because later they can always reference it back. That's always very important to reinforce your learning. So yeah, I would always encourage people to share the knowledge. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you here, definitely. I would also encourage people to share their knowledge, like whatever the ways possible, because it is always both way. It is not one way. Sharing is not like that you are only giving to the community, but while giving the amount of preparation that you need, that in turn helps you a lot. Today, if
Yes.
I am technically built myself in certain areas, it's only because that the amount of knowledge that I try to share with the community, and for that the amount of preparation that I had to do. I cannot get up from sleep and start writing about GitHub Actions. You have a beautiful playlist about GitHub Actions. Right? You have to experience it with yourself, and then you can actually do that, right? So this is for all the developers. Is like if you want to think about knowledge sharing, and somewhere that if that selfishness or the selflessness coming, you have to think in a way that okay, it is going to help you also. It is not just going to help somebody else.
Mm.
So one of the thing that I wanted to know is you are also not from natively English spoken country. Same case for me. I mean, for me, English is a big struggle from childhood, even today. So I'm sure that there are many folks who will have that similar thing to overcome. And if somebody wants to think about, say, knowledge sharing in form of digital writing or maybe podcast or maybe YouTube or whatever it is, what are those initial thing that the person needs to overcome? I mean, that is something I want to really discuss from your experience, and where they kind of find the challenges and bottleneck, and where they what they can do to overcome that, so that they at least can take the first step and then move forward.
Mm, that's a good question. Yeah, I think I actually spoken to a lot of my readers, and a lot of like the podcast listeners, as well as basically a lot of people. This is what I see from what people have given me. A lot of people, what they first struggle with is clicking the publish button. I think that was happening to me as well. Is I finished writing an article, but I just didn't dare to hit the publish button. I
Mm.
think because there's a lot of fear in being judged and fear of being putting yourself out there, especially if you have to put a name on an article. That's why you see a lot of people, like a lot of blogs, they will also use maybe a different name just to get comfortable, or like a brand or something, like publishing under a company, and that's valid as well. But if you're looking to actually build your personal brand through content creation, or if you're trying to basically share knowledge under your name, then that would be, I would say, the first hurdle. I remember I took a month to publish my first article. Like I finished writing it, but I waited for a month. Like I keep like trying to revise it. I go on the platform and I read and read, and I'm like, I think still not good enough, or like maybe I'm missing some pictures. Like there's a lot of things that you just wanna, this is like once you publish it, it's there, it's out there. So a lot of people are afraid to do that at first. Another thing that I noticed a lot of my readers have told me is the consistency, is they really struggle finding a consistent content to write, and they also find it hard to find a consistent schedule to write. So in that case, I always tell them that, what do you want to write about? That's always the first thing. You have to write something that you yourself would read, because you are your first reader. So you don't write for other people first, you write for yourself. And is this something you want to read? And basically from there, then you can start. Once you have a reader base, you can see what are the types that your readers like or enjoy from you, and then you can cater to that. But your very first article should be something that you're passionate about, and it's something
Mm.
that you can think of yourself, like you will read it back again and again. So that's what I always tell them. Yeah. And then I know you also mentioned about English, right? Yeah. So actually, I never consider myself good at English. Like my English has always been just, at least in school, it's like mediocre grades. So it's like not great. I read lots of books, but they're not like literary, like those kind of wow, fantastic, poetic kind of books. So I've always been quite technical, and the good thing about us is that we're technical writers, so we don't need like to be so amazingly artistic in the language. We just need to be able to articulate and communicate the concepts in simple enough English. So you don't need a thesaurus or anything. I actually never like check thesaurus. Oh, how should I explain it in a more professional way or more complicated, profound way? Like I never thought of that. I just thought if it's easy for me to understand, and then that means it should be easy for a lot of people, because my English is not that good. So in a way, I see it as a good thing. Um, but yeah, so that's also something that a lot of people fear about. If they told me that their first language is not English, then how should they be able to write? And I
Mm.
told them, you can always write in your native language. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to write in English if you don't want to. In fact, like Tapas, I know your YouTube channel you have in your own native language.
Yes.
And that actually helped a lot of people, right? Because not everyone speaks English, and you don't have to cater to the English audience if you are better at your native language, or you think you can communicate those concepts through your native language better. So that's basically what I think are the main hurdles that a lot of people kind of face. I'm curious
Right.
about what about you, Tapas? Like I know you started your blogging journey also maybe around the same time. So
Yeah.
just curious what kind of challenges you went through.
Yeah. It's kind of similar. I
Mm,
didn't have that problem of hitting the publish button, because I was more pumped up like how soon I'll hit the publish button. But what happened is, like, after hitting the publish button, I figured out, like, the language that I used in my article is like very basic. I mean, I can actually, right now my daughter is like studying in class 6, and the kind of English that she's studying right now, and if I
mm,
compare her writing today with the first article that I published, I'm way off. And it also had grammatical mistakes. I didn't use any tool. It has spelling mistakes. But I was like very very pumped up hitting the publish button. So when it went off, um, then when I was reading, even I shared the link of the article with some friends and family, and when some of them recognized that there are really some visible problems, then they started giving me feedback, and then I figured out, okay, I really have some problem which I need to address at a very basic level. For example, spelling check is probably the very basic thing that I need to do. I mean, I don't need to know, as you said, like, great English or the literature thing, But if you're writing even a technical article, and if you're making a lot of spelling mistakes, it looks very unprofessional. So that is a
Mm,
minimalistic, that somebody need to check. So that is one thing that I put in myself. Okay, I'll do this stuff. And the second thing that I'm always I mean today probably I'm always shy about is like selling your own work. I'm not that great. I
mm,
probably been doing a lot of good thing or have done a lot of good thing, but it's like, how do I go and tell people like, I am doing this? How am I going to tell that, okay, this is an article that I have written is from my own experience? You may not find some of these things very easily, on internet, because it's purely from my experience. How am I going to tell them? I'm very shy to tell that. Even today, sharing my YouTube videos are very much
I think
challenging for
today you're
me.
good.
Like, it is it like,
Mm,
I'm doing like too much of boasting, too much of telling my own stuff. So
mm,
these are the challenges that I had to go through. And then I figured out, like, if you are not selling your own work, nobody is going to notice that. And you are not doing everything for money. There is no monetary involvement over here. You are doing it for the community, and if the community themselves not knowing, then what is the point of
mm,
doing it? So then I
mm,
started breaking the shackle and try to come out like, okay, I need to do it. Let's push for it. What people will think, maximum people will think something, and ignore. It's nothing for me. So this is the second thing that I had to face. And the third thing was a bunch of negativities. So
mm,
irrespective of whatever the work you do, there will be someone who will always criticize you. And you cannot really
mm,
escape from that. You cannot say that I am the person who is never criticized in this world. I mean, you cannot be, right? Either you have to be
mm,
God. Even, today God also gets criticized.
mm.
But what you need to know is like how to ignore that amount of criticism, and try to figure out like what is a constructive criticism versus somebody really want to put you down. There are many
Yeah.
occasions where I found that somebody is coming to me and saying that this is not right or this can be improved, with a point as that I felt, yeah, this is really that person looking up to, improve my skill. So I taken that. Someone will come, if I put in Reddit and all, they will just come and blast. I ignore that. So I learned it. I learned that as well, right? So those are the initial challenges that I had. And another last thing that I will put is like about showing face. Writing was a different ball game, but when you come to YouTube or public speaking, especially on stage, in person public speaking, that is where another challenge that comes. Many people have spoken to me like they desire to do this, but they can't do it only because they feel really nervous when they show their face. For YouTube kind of thing, I think if you don't want to show your face, it's perfectly fine. There are many channels, there are many creators who are actually doing it without showing the face, and it is perfectly fine with that. When I started initially, I never showed my face. It was without, I was showing the face. But when you're going for public speaking, you cannot really stand behind the curtain and speak. So you have to come in front and have to speak. And if you really desire to do that, I would say only for first 5 to 10 seconds you will feel that nervousness. That also for the first time, and after that, that showing face problem will completely be nullified. That happened to me. Then after, whenever you go to stage again, you will feel that, things butterfly in the stomach for first 5 to 10 seconds, but after that things will be kind of normalized. So
Mm,
when I started doing this public speaking, then I felt, okay, I'm showing face in front of hundreds of people. Why not to show face in front of me on the camera? Because there I only am seeing myself. So let's go ahead and start showing face on YouTube as well. So these were my challenges. This is how, how I figured
mm.
out things.
No, but I love how you take feedback. You take only what is beneficial to you, and you are able to sift through all the negativity. I love how you grow from that, and now you become the person you are. Now you're comfortable in cameras, and I mean, you mentioned the first 5 to 10 seconds, and I was like, how come for me it's like first 5 minutes? but but yeah, maybe you have a different tolerance. But yeah, a lot of things I relate from there. But I love how you really you've been a go-getter from the beginning. Like, you're excited publishing your first article and just looking to always improve. Like you're following the agile method. It's
Yeah.
like iterating and always just getting better and better. That's what I learned from you, actually. Like, I saw your articles is very easy to read, very easy to understand, and very structured and everything. And I can see the improvement over time. Like of course we always start with like not the best version of ourselves when we first
Yes.
publish our first article. Like there's no way your first article is perfect, right? So it's about that constant improving mindset that you have, which is very admirable. So, and your resourcefulness as well, like you ask feedback from friends and family. When I started, I was like doing it all alone. I was afraid to ask and all that. But now I always encourage all my readers who want to write to always ask for feedback first, because I really see the importance of it. So it's partly thanks to you as well that, once again, really inspiring and having that improving mindset. That, yeah,
Thank you
really
very
helps.
much. Thank you very much. So you are also doing public speaking. I think you mentioned to me about the Google I/O, right? And then I think there was API Day where also you had a talk, right? How was your public speaking experience? I mean, how did it start? And are you still feel that kick for going to do public speaking, or how is your preparation also for that?
Oh man, I have some yeah, I have some stories basically. So it's like so far I'm okay with doing public speaking for webinars. Like I thought it's okay to just sit in front of the camera and talk. So because during the pandemic it kind of helped me, because when people are inviting me to things, it's
Mm,
so far been virtual, been online. So I kind of like ease into that slowly. But then this year, I was invited to speak like physical in person. And I was like, when was the last time I do that? I don't know, right? Like, I was so nervous. And I have like 4 months to prepare for it. It was like for a 20-minute talk in API Days conference. And I was thinking to myself, okay, preparing the content, the demo, technical stuff is easy. But now, how am I going to like speak it out to people, explain the concepts to people? Because I've been so used to writing, and writing is, it just comes so natural to me after 3 to 4 years, right? But speaking is totally different ball game. It's like another game, not even another ball games. It's a totally different game. So I'm like, okay. So the first thing I do is this is just how I do it basically. So I structured the slides the way I want to present, basically, almost like an article, because I'm used to writing articles. So I'm writing it the way I want to say it to people. And then after that, I make the slides based on the script.
mm,
So after that, I send it over to the director, and then he take a look and say, okay, this sounds good. So I'm like, okay. So now all that's left is practice, practice, practice. So basically, I practice like overall. I don't try to memorize things. If I try to memorize the script, I'll sound so robotic, right?
yes.
And I fell into that trap like a long time ago in school. Like I sound so scripted. So I don't want to memorize scripts. I don't want to bring cue cards. It will distract the audience if I'm like looking down and like talking like this. So I don't want to bring anything. I want to be as natural, as conversational as possible. So I just keep practicing like in terms of bullet points. Okay, so this slide I will talk A, B, C. In this slide I'll talk A, B, C. And how I connect A to B to C, it will all depend on me that day, so it'll not be forced or scripted. I just need to remember to hit those points. So that's all I do. And then after that, I also prepare for any worst case scenario. So like, if demo fails, I have a video and all those things. Always be prepared for that. Yeah. And then so on the day I came to the audience, it was like around 3 p.m., right? Just after lunch break, because it was a huge conference. They provided lunch. So it was just after lunch break.
Which
So I know
conference was that?
the API Days conference.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know everyone would be kind of like around sleepy, might need some coffee around that time. So I purposely make a bit of small talk just to make myself less nervous, because I was already standing on the podium with the mic on like my face. Everyone was there like just looking like, oh, who's this girl and all that. So I was like, hi everyone. Like in my most natural but awkward self. Hi everyone. I hope you guys are having a good conference so far. I know it's 3 p.m. You guys are probably sleepy, need coffee. So bear with me for the next 20 minutes and we can get this over done with. So just try to empathize with the audience, make small talk. I got a little laugh, a few giggles, and then it makes me also less nervous, because then I realized that they're also humans just like us, right? So
Mm,
they're all just also just like curious about the topic, and they're just trying to learn something today. So I try to put myself in their shoes. So it's like I don't have to be nervous, because it's about me sharing for them, like the knowledge for them. So it's not about me. Yeah. So I should not focus on like, oh, how nervous I am, or what if I fail? What if I missed a point? It's about them trying to teach it to them. So by focusing my content on trying to help them, I actually got less nervous. But then the technical problem still happened. So the slide suddenly went blank, and then the projector was not working. It's all black. But I panicked, and then I snapped my finger, and then suddenly the slide went back on. It was like everyone was talking about it afterwards. So it was day one of the conference. Day two, everyone came to me and say, "Oh, you're that speaker that yesterday snapped the finger and magically the projector comes on." So yeah, a lot of things happened. It was like a mess because like the projector shut down like 2 to 3 times, and I was left with like, what should I do? And the technical person is not there. So I really just snap my finger and it just magically always comes on, like always. I don't know how it happened, but maybe the public speaking god was like looking at me. uh but yeah, it became a kind of a funny side joke even amongst my friends and colleagues who went there to support me. So yeah, that was how it happened, my first public speaking event in many years. But it's my first tech public speaking event. So yeah,
Nice.
but it was a good experience. Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot really avoid those. The demo is not working, and all
Mm.
the stuff. What I realized is like the I think the last big event that I spoke was in React Nexus. So what happened is like after my talk, I had a small demo to show. The moment I wanted to show the demo, my entire laptop got frozen. Nothing moved. And the demo was a very important part in the entire thing. And in front, like 400 people are sitting, and I have to do this. So I figured out, like, when you are in some kind of trouble, it's a very basic instinct of human being that they try everything to come out of the trouble. It happens in our daily life. And when you are standing in a big podium in front of 400, 500 people, you want to get out of the trouble by doing whatever you can, right? So the very basic instinct that worked at that point of time in me was humor. I think I was suddenly I become so humorous. I don't know from where, which I'm not in my real life. And
No, you are so funny in real life.
somehow
Sorry,
I could
continue.
manage that situation and kind of come out of it. And I also this for everyone who want to go to stage and want to talk technical, listening to us today. See the audience who have purchased ticket or not purchased ticket, sitting in front of you, listening to your technical talk. They are much decent than any other audiences in this world. Whatever mistake you do, they are so forgiving that they will forgive you. You can be assured that they are not going to throw any egg, tomato, or anything to you towards you if you are not performing well. So this is a confidence that you should be going ahead with. Even if you do the tremendous mistake, still you will be forgiven and people will appreciate you at least at the end, right? You went to the stage and did something. This is the biggest credibility that you will have, and kind of come down and do better in the next time. I always have that the worst thing that can happen is this, that I won't be able to do anything. I'll still get a clap while I come down, right? So that's a very good thing to have. So yeah, this is my public speaking thing that I wanted to kind of share and kind of encourage a lot of people over there. You also mentioned to me like you are kind of very introvert person, and you also mentioned like coming in front of camera and all these things. So how this entire podcast thing happened? Podcast, I think, is a deal because you have to be not only in front of camera, you have to immerse yourself in some amount of conversation with either with your guest or someone. So your body language and some amount of consciousness, maybe I don't have at this point of time because you are too friendly to me, but at some point of time you have to be cautious about what you're doing, and how all these things happen, how the podcast thing happened, and also tell
Okay.
about the podcast, like what it is about.
Okay, yeah. So the podcast that I'm doing right now is called Ragtag, Ragtech. So Ragtag. So basically, it comes from the word ragtag, Ragtag. So which means it's like a group of disorganized topics, basically. So we're trying to our topics is just all related to tech, but it's just not super like a syllabus structured kind of thing. It's just in a very super casual kind of conversation setting. That's our main purpose for this podcast, is we want to be able to bring the realities of tech into the public without making it sound too serious or sound
Hmm.
too structured, like too technical basically. So what we do is we're trying to basically appeal to non-techies and techies alike. Basically, even people who knows nothing about tech, we usually try to talk in a more layman kind of terms, or even sometimes explain some of the terms during our podcast if we mention them, so that our non-techies would understand as well. The reason why we started this is it's all very, very spontaneous. It's like, those things that happen with like startups. It's just like we're just talking about it over dinner. So me and a bunch of women devs Singapore community. So basically, I'm part of Women Devs Singapore, and it's basically a non-profit organization aimed to help women in tech elevate their careers. So, but it's also open for men. Just saying, because I know some people think, yeah, but it's for men and women alike. But we mostly want to focus on helping women to elevate their careers in tech. So I was having dinner with the rest of the members because we just finished an event, So yeah, very happy, very happy. And then we have all dinner together, and it's just three of us left after that. So three of us, me, Saloni, Natasha, and then the three of us talking, and we're like, Natasha, she always wanted to start a podcast. She's so good at talking and so
Mm.
conversation, and really likes meeting new people. So she suggested, hey, we know maybe we should do a podcast on tech or something like that. And then Sloane say, well, I always wanted to be a content creator because Sloane's motto is teaching is the best way to learn. So she really loves teaching to people and just really loves sharing knowledge and just meeting new people through that process as well. And then for me, I'm like, yeah, I've been doing that with my blogging.
Yeah.
So I provide no value at all. I'm just like, oh, good, cool. I've done that with my blogging. Uh, Me don't know if podcast suits me, but okay, cool. But then the three of us start talking, and then the two of them say, no, you should really be a part of this, with your level of experience and all that. But then I'm like, zero experience, camera, talking, no, and all that. But then I told them, if you want, because I do have some passion in like, oh, maybe I can produce a podcast. So I say, oh, maybe I can like sit behind the camera and like I'm the one that come up with the topics, the ideas, and then you two will be like just talking to each other like in the scene. But then they'll be like, no. If you're gonna do this, you should try camera. So I'm like, okay. I mean, I can try first episode because I also see it as a challenge. Because every time I know when I'm uncomfortable, that means I'm growing. So if I
Mm.
put myself in an uncomfortable position, but not too uncomfortable, just slightly, I will be like, this would help me in some way. Like maybe it's not so tangible and so seeable, but I would be able to feel that growth. So I decided to take up on that challenge and actually do the podcast with them. And I'm sure both of them are actually very understanding. So they say, actually, if you don't want to be in front of the camera, it's fine. But then I'm like, no, I will try challenge myself. So that's what I decided to do. But on day one, we set up the cameras and everything, right? On day one, we have like three cameras. Oh, I mean, I'm already so scared with one camera, but yeah, there's three cameras. I was like so anxious the whole time. Like I felt so robotic, and I haven't felt that in a long time. It's like robotic in a sense that like I was even just not moving. I was just like
Mm.
just sitting like super straight and super like stiff, and everything that I say sounds very like awkward and just I cannot be myself. My usual self is like random, bubbly, like loud mess. But then there I was like stiff, awkward. And then they decided, okay, let's put a cat there. So Natasha has two cats, right? And one of them is named Pip, so for Pip installed. So she put Pip
Mm.
there, and then I just keep stroking Pip. It's like my emotional therapy cat. And then if you see the first episode, you see that I'm literally stroking Pip the whole time. Like for that whole 2 hours of recording, I'm just doing this
Pip
just
had
to
a good
calm myself.
time. Pip had a good time.
Yeah, people sleeping the whole time, like, oh, so nice. And I was just doing this. Yeah, and then I just try to react, like, and try to talk if they ask me questions. So it's like a matter of slowly getting used to it and getting used to the process. But I'm super grateful to the both of them for actually trusting me enough with this. If not, I would have never like get to this point. And I just want to say that now we just released our 20th episode. So huge milestone because it's like the consistency is there. It was very hard because we're all very busy, but we always say that this is part of the priorities that we want to do. and we just want to do it because we like it. So
Mm.
we did it, and we consistently been publishing for 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, and now we reach our 20th episode. So,
Awesome.
and yeah, learn a lot from this process. Yeah, yeah,
It is not easy. I actually the
yeah.
consistency part that you mentioned, no, probably first few episodes you will do with a lot of energy that okay, this is something new, but
Mm.
constantly doing it and doing it with a similar kind of passion is tremendously difficult, and people only who are doing they know. By the way, I'm going to share the link to the podcast in the description of this video, and whoever watching, you can find it. Please support them, follow them, and watch the podcast that they're doing. I'm sure that it is gonna be very very superb. I watched a couple of them, the initial ones. But I have to catch up with the other one. 20 is a great milestone.
Yeah, and also super congratulations to you for also starting this. So everyone be sure to follow, like, subscribe to Tapas as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, follow, and subscribe. Yeah, one of the
yeah.
one of the reason that why I started this podcast is like I get to meet a lot of people informally in my life and kind of share a lot of vibe, and at certain point of time you will find there are certain vibe which are common,
Mm,
and there are possibilities of learning from each other, and this learning should not be just between these two people. It has to go beyond it, right? So recently I spoke to Sandeep from Hashnode. He shared the story of like how entire thing happened. So this is a great thing for anybody who is trying to start small and then want to kind of grow to the scale that what Hashnode is today. Before that, I spoke to a person who has not done proper computer science and engineering, but doing excellent in the system design and the DSA. So these kind of stories are going to definitely push people forward. Like you might have certain thing which is very small today, but it just takes that few steps for you to kind of make it bigger, and that's the whole reason of doing the tapaScript lab podcast. Great. You mentioned about the women empowerment in the technical field of it, and you are doing awesome work over there. Congratulations for that. I hope that you continue for many years to come and do that. The thing that I want to know for every woman who are probably envisioned to make their mark in the technical field and want to grow, what kind of struggle that you usually find, at least from the women point of view, right? I mean, and where exactly you think that your contributions come into play and help them? Because why I'm asking this question, if someone is listening to us today and if they have similar kind of questions in their mind, and they might get certain kind of clarifications and steps, so both challenges and how do you play your role to kind of break those challenges and give them the path? That's what, if you want to talk.
I think a lot of women in tech, at least the reason why I joined this community in the first place is because I don't see there being a lot of women who's like, in tech conferences speaking or being a leader in tech, being an engineering
Mm.
leader. We see a lot of women. Yes, they may start as like junior software engineers, but then they'll drop out like maybe mid-career or so. So actually our community is focused on all levels of professions for tech, but we want to focus on mid-career women in particular, is we're trying to elevate them in that careers. The reason why we're doing that is because we just want to see more women taking leadership, and being able to voice out within the industry. I've seen a lot of my friends who are currently really excellent women engineers in tech. There's this how do I say, it's not really inequality or anything. It's more like they just felt like maybe they're not as, it's not easy for them to voice out compared to,
Mm.
like, let's say their other peers who are possibly like male colleagues. Maybe they're like more like, oh yes, I want to do it this way or that. So for the woman, because women, we are naturally more group minded, so we always think about, well, what's the best for the group. Sometimes we choose not to voice out, and that's also our thing, is we choose not to voice out because we want to be considerate and we want to take account into everyone's opinions. But I know that in a company there has to be balance, right? There has to be people who, like, very good at voicing their opinions, but there's also have to be people who considers and takes consideration of everyone's opinions. So we want to basically have more, to see more women in leadership positions, because we want to see more leaders who are able to lead in a way that's not too like follow me. It's like the leadership style will be more like, everyone can be happy,
Yeah.
and then we'll all grow together, something like that. So that's why we focus on that. But it's not like our community is just women. We also have men in our community. Basically, anyone who subscribe to our mission of, valuing a lot of these leadership positions to be more heard, more seen, then you can definitely join. Anyone is welcome. Yeah, we just want to help. It's something like that.
No,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So where can someone find it, and is it only for Singapore, or beyond Singapore people can participate in some ways?
Yeah, so actually, we rebranded from Women Who Code Singapore. So previously, Women Who Code Singapore was a global organization. So they have many chapters, right? Many locations around the world, and we're only the Singapore chapter. But in April, actually, Women Who Code Singapore unfortunately declared dissolution. It
Okay,
went, yeah, because there was not enough funding. So then we rebranded ourselves and we created our own as Women Devs Singapore. So
I see.
currently ours is just Singapore, but we definitely want to see more, women-led communities,
Mm.
initiatives in other countries as well, and we'll be happy to collaborate, to partner with, any kind of community. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think maybe some of the folks, some of the developers listening to it might reach out to you. Who knows? Like, maybe getting some kind of advice and the suggestions, like how they want to get started, if they want to get started with such community in their own geo and do something, over there. And it is also not the cases like that. It has to be founded and done by women only. Even the
Mm.
men can come up and do something for the entire women community, kind of lead by examples, and do such things. Yeah, whoever feel encouraged, feel free to reach out to Victoria. Her contacts are there in the description of the video, and you can always ping her on those contacts. Thank you for sharing that. I want to talk about one more thing. I think this is something that you shared publicly, and if I'm not wrong, it actually blown away when you shared this one thing about imposter syndrome. And I think you wrote an article, if I'm not wrong, long back, about imposter syndrome. And there are a lot of developers suddenly started related to it, and a lot of people like that article. I know there are a lot of comments happen on that article. There's a lot of sharing about it. Imposter syndrome, is it for real? What is your take on this, and if you can provide certain suggestions for the developers community, the technical developers community, if they're facing certain things.
Yeah, first of all, when I published that article, because in a way, my blog has always been a personal blog to me. Like, it's more than just a technical blog. It's something I also share my personal stories with, like my journeys, my learnings, as well as like my philosophy and book reviews and
Mm.
all that. So it's like my blog is pretty much a mess. It's like everything like Victoria wants to nag about. So yeah, that was like an unexpected response because I actually was writing it as a part of a reflection article, like 365 days of Hashnode, how I deal with my imposter syndrome. So that was the article. It was 1 year after I've been consistently publishing on Hashnode. So I was trying to reflect what have I progressed in, and I would say the biggest was imposter syndrome at the time. So yeah, the response was really, I was really grateful for everyone's kind and positive comments and how they find it like comforting and relatable. I think that's why a lot of developers do not speak out on this. Is they're afraid of being judged, right? It's like, you're a software engineer or you're a technical person. You just have to, do your job, be technical, grind, get your hard skills up and all that. Like, no one talks about the mental side of things. That's why when I was publishing it, I didn't expect a lot of people to give such positive comments. I thought people would just be,
Right.
oh, this is another Victoria's random article. Bleh, skip, you know. But yeah, I was grateful that a lot of people actually are nice about it. I think imposter syndrome, yeah, to answer your question, is definitely real and it's valid if you feel it. The thing is, it can happen to anyone at all levels. It doesn't have to be when you're a beginner software engineer or you're intermediate. You can even feel it when you're, in fact, you might feel it even more when you're very good
Right.
at your craft. As I explained in the article, there's the Dunning-Kruger effect, which means the more things that you have learned, the more expert you are at something, the more you'll feel less confident about this. You'll realize so many things you don't know. And then the imposter syndrome will just suddenly hit you because you'll be like, so I realized I'm not as good as I thought. Basically, usually you'll feel that after you cross a certain expert level, a certain level. There's the graph for that. So it takes a while to accept at first, because the reason why you'll feel that is you realize there's so many things you don't know. The first thing I always tell my readers to basically how to overcome the imposter syndrome is acknowledge first. So you need to acknowledge. You shouldn't deny. You shouldn't invalidate your feelings basically, or dismiss it in any way. If you feel like you're not good enough, or there's a lot of things you don't know, or you feel like you're just an imposter, hence the name, then you first have to acknowledge the feeling and say, okay, it's okay to feel this way, because everyone else also feels this way actually. A lot of people do actually feel this way. So first acknowledge it. And second is actually find out what is causing this imposter syndrome. Because for me, I found this imposter syndrome because it was through social media. I was really engaging a lot with my readers, engaging a lot with the tech community online. But social media is the thief of happiness. It's like it causes you to compare a lot, right?
Yes. Yes.
Every time when I'm on Twitter, I was like scrolling, it's like, oh, this person did this article. Oh, I wish I've known. I want to write this too. There's a lot of these comparison and thing, and then I slowly, like, before I knew it, I spiral into that emotion where, like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not good enough to write this, or like he's better at writing this than me. Whoever the writer is, and that's how I slowly realized that I have the imposter syndrome. It took a while for me to actually realize and then acknowledge it. But once I do, it felt so much better, because that means it explained everything that why I'm feeling this way. And yeah, and then after that is basically figure out the source, right? So I figured out my source was social media. So I went away from social media for a while. Like, I do not check Twitter every morning. I do not check any, like, articles or like my blog stats. Oh my god, that one was like a lot of pressure. Like, because I say like, oh, I should continuously, like, at least maintain my blog analytics and all that. No, I don't care about that. I like just shut off for like a while. So once that went away, I realized, oh, okay, I'm back to where I started basically. Humble yourself down and, like, okay, it's okay. Just acknowledge that everyone is learning. This is all a learning process. No matter where you are in your learning journey, you're always learning. So it doesn't matter, like, oh, who's better or who's not, or like if you're not good enough, because everyone have things that they know and they don't know, right? Everyone's experience is different. So that's how I slowly came out of that, and that's why I wrote that article, because I've overcome it in my own way, and I want to share to people how I overcome it. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I think this is something, in my opinion, is very common. Whatever you just explained, it happened to me as well, right? And sometimes it happens. I mean, even between two friends, it might happen, like two very close friends, and you feel like, oh man, I'm probably very much behind. Am I capable of doing this? If I try to do this, like, what that person will think, all this kind of stuff. So it's very common, and especially on the tech world, you will find it probably every step. So it's always good to identify it, like you are into that situation, and then try to find the root cause, like why exactly you're feeling that. And that's very important point that you actually brought out, so thanks for doing that. I hope that people who are having this kind of problem, like they're facing this imposter syndrome, you can actually do things is like talk to people who have already come out of it. It is very, very helpful in that way. I remember, like, not exactly the syndrome, I will say, but I had a lot of issues in terms of I had to do a lot of things. I mean, for me is like, I have to do this. I have to do this. Tomorrow I'll start. And the problem was also is like being a yes man.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is asking something. Yeah, I'm going to do it for you. I'm already having 40 things on my backlog, and I know that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sleeping. And I'm not telling that person no, or cannot tell that person, like, oh, I can do it only after 2 months or 3 months. And I'm taking that unnecessarily, and then facing so much, struggle on top of that. So this is another kind of problem that I was facing, and then I started talking to few of my mentors, like, how do you deal with this? Then I figured out, like, what they told me is like, you should learn to say no, but you should not sound like you're very arrogant,
Mm-hmm.
because if you tell no with proper reason and proper reasoning, everybody understands. You give them the value, like, they came to you. You give them the value for that they came to you, and you're really really valuing them. but at the same time try to project your situation, like why you are saying no momentarily or temporarily, and when you can actually get back to them, whether an yes or it could be possibly no forever. I learned that
Mm,
very much, and then I started working towards it.
mm.
That actually helped me. That is another thing I think the developers face. Some of the folks face, like they cannot say no, and at the end of it, they suffer. The quality of the work goes down. They cannot meet the deadline. A lot of such things
And
actually
then they'll
happen.
blame themselves because they're
They
not
blame
good
themselves.
enough.
Yeah, why I
Then
didn't do it. Yeah,
yeah,
I had
yeah.
few assignments. I got few assignments. I think a week back, I had to push them because
Um,
I'm going on a vacation. So I'm very clear about it. I'm going on a vacation.
mm,
I'm not going to take that right now. If it
mm,
can wait for me, once I come back, I'll be happily able to take that up. So be clear about those aspects as well.
that's good. Be polite but assertive as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Don't be a
yeah.
yes man. Yeah,
Yeah, and I just want to mention that for imposter syndrome, for me, it still comes and goes because
mm,
when you're in a different phase of life, it's bound to happen again. But this time, you just become better at dealing with it. So it's not like once you overcome the imposter syndrome, it goes away indefinitely. It will still come back sometimes. But
yeah,
then now you'll have the right proper tools and a proper mindset to understand how to overcome it. And I like what you mentioned about, you know, talk to the people because I think having a very supportive community and just or a couple of friends that you can trust and you can talk with, that really helps a lot for overcoming imposter syndrome. So yeah.
absolutely. So taking the same thing,
Mm,
if I ask you, like, apart from having the technical skills, what are the top three soft skill that a developer should have?
mm,
What are the soft skill and why? Basically, there are a lot of soft skill that we talk about. We generalize
mm,
communication as a soft skill, and
mm,
communication is the vast area in that matter. So
mm.
what are the things that you think that there must have top skill, top three, and why?
I think collaboration is one of them too. I think most developers they might start out as lone wolves, like just building projects on their own, just figuring things out on their own. Because I was like that when I was first learning how to code. It's like I thought, okay, I'll just go on free code camp and just learn everything by myself, right? Watching YouTube tutorials. It's all such a solo activity, and
Mm,
let's be honest, most developers are introverts. I don't know why. Uh, but yeah, so naturally we just like spending time alone, right? But collaboration is a very important skill, especially in teams or especially if you want to elevate to the next level. Is because you need to be able to understand and empathize and how to how to work with people. Basically, I tried to avoid that for a long time. I was like, maybe I can just as long as I do well, like my own part, it'll be good. Like my whole team will benefit, right? So I was thinking like very like soloist kind of thing, but for the benefit of the team, right? I just thought I just have to put in more work. So if the pie is 100% and your whole team is supposed to be like five people, like 20% each, I thought, I'll just take 60, right? If there's someone who's
mm,
not doing the work or something. But I forgot that if you keep doing that, eventually you'll get burnt out. So
mm.
actually, I also written an article on burnt out before. But yeah, eventually you get burnt out if you try to do everything by yourself and you try to like just force to be a soloist for the team. And then I learned collaboration is basically working together with people. But not only it's not just working together with people, but understand people's needs and being able to adjust and accommodate and being flexible. Basically, don't be too rigid. Like, oh, but it's my ticket. I have to do this. You have to adjust. Like sometimes people have different priorities, may not be the same as yours, so you have to understand that. And then after that, you can offer suggestions. Oh, what if I do this on this deadline? Would that work for you? Like basically, be open to suggestions and remember to communicate that. So I consider that all part of collaboration. Basically, being an effective collaborator. Yeah. So that
Yeah,
is.
and I think
Mm,
I'll add that one point is like, see, developer being a developer, you also try to do a lot of side hustles. You be part of hackathons and things like that. So this is
mm,
one quality would come very very handy for you, because if in a hackathon you might have to collaborate with folks to make something really solid and good. You may not be able to do alone because you have one part of the skill, the other part of the skill with probably someone, and you want to join hands and want to do something. So you need to be collaborative in nature, both giving and taking. Side hustles, you build something really cool, Now you need certain push from the community, and you want to be in that kind of networking mode so that others can help you out. And if you're just sitting in the corner of the room doing your own work and not putting it in front of the people, or you don't know how to collaborate to put it in front of the people, I think there is a problem, right? So we all face that. So that's a great point that you made about collaborate. Open source is another area where you have to collaborate, otherwise there is no place for you, right? Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
very much for
and
making that
and
point.
and the time of recording this is actually Hacktoberfest period, right?
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
exactly. So just to mention the open source thing, yeah, yeah. So definitely collaboration is also another thing. Um, the second soft skills that I would say is proactiveness. So I
Mm.
don't know if it's called soft skills, but it's more like a mindset almost, like being proactive in things. So you don't just like, okay, I received these tickets, I'm gonna just do them. It's like some I see there's a difference between great programmers and excellent programmers, right? For excellent programmers, they're excellent is because they're constantly curious and they always want to learn. So they proactively seek out like opportunities that allows them to learn or challenge themselves. So I do admire excellent programmers because they're able to have that proactiveness, just initiate, just continuously building side hustles, join hackathons, or try to find conferences they can attend to learn something. I think that's a good part about being a programmer or being a technologist, because the tech industry is constantly changing, right? So it'll satiate any curiosity. So for any person who's curious, you have many many things to find out, you have many many things you want to learn. Like for me, I'm like, I know I'm not in the AI business, but I'm like so curious about things like that. Like I'll just dabble, I'll just start like getting my hands dirty with code, making side projects, running machine learning pipelines just for the fun of it. It's like finding joy in learning and being proactive about it. I think that's another trait that a lot of people, it will be beneficial for them to have. And then the third would be, I don't want to say communication because I know it's cliche, but I think it's very, very important. But in a way, so for me at least, like throughout my journey so far, the communication I've learned is written communication, right? Like, articles, how to write. But what about oral communication? What about empathy? What about trying to, understand people, or public speaking? All those are communication skills that are often overlooked within the typical software engineer's job scope because you don't really need those, right? But I think it's important to build upon those skills as well, like just understanding how to network with people. The word networking always scares me every time. Like when I was
Mm.
younger, like in the past, I'm scared of that word networking because I find people like not as genuine, or I don't know how to present myself. Like there's so many factors for an introvert at least. But when I mean communication, I mean, yes, putting yourself out there and understanding how to basically talk to people well. So not just like say hi, hello. It's like really be curious of people and
Mm.
really engaging with them and learning from them. I think that's a skill that even I'm currently trying to build, like trying to learn how to communicate, network, and and just have fun in doing that. Like just try to enjoy the process of doing that.
Yeah, I think all three soft skill that you mentioned as like super powerful is, and it is not like overnight you can build all of them. You need to keep trying. You mentioned about networking. This one thing to call out over here. A very valid point is like, especially on the social media side of it, the authenticity, the genuineness, all these things come into picture very, very evidently nowadays. Is like you rely on someone, and then one fine day you find that it's not that authentic that you thought of, or there is some amount of that thing which you cannot believe and all this stuff. So one way that I find it is like, you will face that issue, you cannot really avoid it, but it is not like it should push you back that you won't be doing networking, because networking is having a tremendous power if it is done well, not only for getting job references and all these things. Sometimes it can elevate your career in a completely different way. I can give my example that without talking to people, or without getting into their shoe, try to understand like how they are doing things, being empathetic about it, or providing support, get support, any of the things that I'm doing today, it would have been impossible to do. So today I have a small startup where I have folks who are working for our startup, each of the folks, at least 80-90% of the folks are recruited from the networking. It is not like that, I had a hiring and I had to get people. It was always about I knew the person, and then I knew probably there is a certain amount of potential. I just wanted to cross check the authenticity part of it, and that's it. So it is a win-win situation for the person also, from the networking that they had with me, for me also getting someone of that caliber and the skill, and working together, the opportunity to working together with them. So make use of networking really well. Don't do it for like, comment, subscribe, though you can do like, comment, subscribe to my channel, but don't always go for like, comment, subscribe, followers. Believe me, Victoria, I stopped chasing the followers maybe 3 years back. When I just joined Twitter at that time it was like very much kicking, getting new followers and all this time, and you will be sharing those content, do all this thing, get into the game of how you kind of get the reach high, get the followers and all these things. Later I figured out, like, even if you have like millions of followers, what matter is the 10% of people whom you are actually talking, in a sense that it benefits both of you. Rest of it
Yes.
is just like time pass, you don't care about it. So right now, whatever the followers I have and whatever the people that I engage with on all this platform, including YouTube, giving the response to their comments and all these things, this is what is the biggest kick for me, that I'm learning something from them and I'm giving something back to them. So networking is important, do it intelligently. That's what my point is.
Yes, do it intelligently and genuinely, basically.
Genuinely, yes, very, very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, because definitely during my time, just like, I've been going to networking events and all that, like, you will definitely meet some people who kind of like talk like in a way like you cannot like immediately trust them, or sometimes like they might have a different agenda. So that's why I remember I attended a talk on how to network for
Mm,
techies. So Natasha actually gave that talk. And another one thing that she mentioned as a tip is don't come in with an agenda. If you come in
mm,
with a goal like I'm gonna find who's in Google and I'm gonna get that number or something, then you'll become so focused on just getting that agenda done, and people will just not find you as authentic. You'll not be like engaging and listening to other people. You'll not be like really making conversation with anyone else. So it's all about just coming in with no agenda. You just come in to genuinely talk to people. So I really recommend people to watch Natasha's talk on that. Maybe I'll share with
yeah,
you the
please
link.
share the link, I'll put it in the
Yeah.
description.
Yeah, because she really has some really good tips on how to network. And it's really targeted for techies because it's called networking for techies. So a lot of people might find that helpful. Yeah.
Awesome, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think I'm coming towards the end of this discussion, Victoria. I don't want to hold you for longer on this weekend. I want you to go out and do your stuff, definitely. Before I end, I just want to know, like, do you plan very effectively for future, at least for, let's say, next 1 year, next 2 years, next 5 years? I know there sometimes these are the interview questions, like, what do you want to be in next 3 years, next 5 years? I'm not asking you that. Rather, do you purposefully plan for your future, like, I want to do this in next year, this is the thing that I want to explore, or maybe beyond that? If so, what is there, what is upcoming for you?
So I think for me is mostly I just want to be able to continue creating content, continue organizing events through Women Devs Singapore. So currently, even right now, I'm actually organizing a mentorship program for Women Devs Singapore. So it's a 3-month mentorship program, and we actually almost reaching the end of the program. And I just find it very rewarding whenever I'm like building communities or engaging with them. So I want to continue to do that for a long, long time, not just 3, 5 years, but for a long time. I want to continuously meet people through the community, help empower them, help elevate their careers, and basically, hopefully in some way inspire them if possible. So I just want to continue doing that. And then another thing is my writing. I also want to continue writing for a long, long time, is because once again, it's like my knowledge database. I want to
Mhm.
continuously improve. So the moment I like stop writing, that means it's the day I stop learning, which I don't want it to happen. So I'll continue write for a long time. Just currently I'm a little bit busy, so it's not my priority, but I definitely want to get back to publishing consistently again. So that is another goal of mine. And then the third is definitely the podcast. I want to continue doing this with Natasha and Sloni, Tech. because I want to be able to meet people, like you mentioned, in a casual setting, talk about random topics in tech in a very conversationally
Yeah.
random bantery way. I just find a lot of joy doing that as well because we nerds, we just like to talk about nerdy stuff, but where else can you talk about it unless it's your own platform, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's nice. Especially I have two friends who like really lift me up and help me, get over the initial hurdle of the camera. So yeah, I think I'm growing a lot from that experience. Um, yeah, and uh, yeah. So when you ask me, do I plan? I kind of plan, but I used to plan more in detail. But
Mm.
recently, I realized that life, it just happens for a reason. So life is unpredictable. You cannot plan for everything. So now I try not to be too rigid in my planning. Maybe it's more like what I see myself doing in 3 to 5 years, but not like, oh, I have to hit this target. I have to do this. Like it will be just too much pressure and I won't enjoy the process. Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
So my motto now is like enjoy the process. Yeah. And
Awesome.
have fun. Yeah.
That's so cool, and all the best to all these things that you thought about. All the best to all of you for the podcast. I'd be looking forward to definitely read the articles that you'll be publishing in future. I'm sure that many people will get benefit out of it, and definitely looking forward to meet you in person maybe sometime here.
Oh, yeah,
That
we've
would be
been
really
talking
awesome.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that
because
would be
we
really
talked about
awesome.
that for a long time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I really want to meet you someday, but I know you're off to your vacation, right, back to your hometown. So enjoy that as well. I'm sure it's just a lot of fun, a lot of food. Yeah, and then maybe someday we can meet in person. That would be so nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So thank you so much,
So,
Tapas. Really is.
no worries at all. It is completely
Mm,
my pleasure because I wanted to do this for a longer time and finally it happened. And thank you very much for coming to this podcast and shared all these things, all the insights. I'm sure like folks who are watching it or will be watching it in future will at least learn something. And I hope like, they get in touch with you and please follow her like wherever she is there. Go to her podcast and try to learn. And though we told like the networking, be very intelligent and real about it. Start networking with Victoria. I'm sure like you will learn a lot from doing that. So thanks, Victoria,
it's
again. Yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
I actually have a tip about the networking because you just mentioned
Go ahead.
because a lot of people when they network with me, they just like connect on LinkedIn. They just press connect, right? Then I'll
Uh,
see like hundreds and hundreds of people who I don't
uh,
know. Like, how am I supposed to like accept the invitation, right? Like, I have a
exactly.
limit because I'm using free using free LinkedIn. So I have a limit to the number of connections I have. So if I don't know you, like if you don't put in a short message how you know me or anything, then I felt like, "Oh, who are you?" So yeah, this is part of you mentioning being real. It's like genuinely connect with someone, send them a nice personalized message, right? Like, oh, I
Very
saw you
important.
on Tapas podcast. Would like to connect, something like that. It's good enough.
Very
Yeah.
important point. Very important
Mm,
point.
mm.
I actually did some post on LinkedIn sometime back about it. It's like at least tell like how do we relate to each other, how do you come to me, and more than you want to connect to me, it might be the fact that I want to connect to you, but just you let us know like how are we going to connect and what what are we going to do. Just don't send random thing. Yeah, very difficult. Thanks for sharing that point. I think it's very important one. With that note, we are coming to the end of this podcast. I don't know how last 1 hour went by. It was it was really
So
cool.
fast, so
Yeah, so
fast.
fast discussing all these things. I'll be back again with another podcast very soon with another amazing guest like Victoria. So thanks, Victoria. Take a great care.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Thank you
Thank you.
very
Take
much.
care, Papas. Bye bye. Bye
Bye.
bye.